this is Cheri at djsundry.blogspot.com, and I have kind of a dual purpose project to share with you today. I am making thank you notes for my daughter's upcoming graduation, and I needed to make a lot of them. So a couple weeks ago, I said, go through the Operation Right Home sketches, choose a sketch that we like, and then when we go to town to get your graduation dress, we will go to the scrapbooking store and pick out some paper. So she went through my paper stash first, didn't find anything she really wanted. She went through the sketches and she chose this sketch. She chose the Operation Right Home bonus sketch number 12. So we went to town, we picked up the paper and the supplies that we needed to make her thank you notes. And then a day or two later, I received an email from Operation Right Home about the Memorial Day blog hop that's coming up. And they are asking for thank you cards. And I thought, well, that's perfect. We've already chosen an Operation Right Home sketch, which is the other part that we were supposed to incorporate in our project. We've already done that, and we've chosen our paper, and it's thank you notes. So I'll just do that and make a few extras to send to Operation Right Home. Well, since then, I have decided to do this. Because there are so many people participating in this blog hop, they prefer that we do the tutorial part of it on a different post than the actual blog hop because there's so many people to get through. So this post is going to go live just a couple of hours before the post for the blog hop goes live. So what I've chosen to do is give you the tutorial showing my daughter's graduation thank you notes. And then I will just, at the end of the video, I'll show you a little sneak peek of the paper I'm going to use for the Operation Right Home. But you're going to have to go to the blog, www.djsundries.blogspot.com, so that you can see the actual card that I'm sending, or the cards that I'm sending to Operation Right Home. So be sure and check back both days. The blog hop, it runs over Memorial Day weekend. It starts at 3 o'clock in the morning on the 25th of May, and this is 2013 if you're watching at a different date. So I plan to have on my blog, I plan to have the tutorial posted on the 24th at just a couple minutes before midnight, so that this tutorial will go live about 3 hours before the next post. So yeah, on my blog I'm going to be kind of post heavy because I've got all sorts of design team commitments. I've got a couple different design team commitments for 3 Girl Jam that's going live, and by the time you're seeing this video, I will have done a couple in the last couple days. They may not all be on YouTube, so if you think you might be missing something, be sure and check out my blog to see what's going on. So let's get started. As I said, we're starting with this sketch number B12. And to start with, it's a standard card base of 4.5 by 5 or 4.25 by 5.5. And then there are some dimensions. The bottom dimension is going to be 4 inches by 5 3/8 inches. The next is this little flag piece, and it's 2 inches by 4.5 inches. And then there's a square piece that's 2 inches and 2 3/4 inches by 1 3/4. Now this is the sketch, and then at the bottom is where the sentiment goes right here. Now I've made some changes, of course, that's what sketching's about, to fit our needs for our thank you notes. So let's get started and we'll make one together. Now the first thing, I'll set these aside. My card base is made out of this brown cardstock. This is actually called Nougat, and it's from Basil. And I cut it, I decided I wanted it to open on the side. That's what my daughter wanted. So I cut it this way. So I cut it at 4 1/4 inches wide down the score mark, and I scored it at 5.5, and we'll show that in a minute. This is the designer paper that I'm using. This is from Prima, and I have a lot of it here because I actually ended up making 30 thank you notes by the time it was said and done. And there's some variations that I'll show you as I do that. But this is double-sided paper, and this is what my daughter chose to use. And to save the most paper that I could, I didn't want this dream of big things. So what I did is I came down here and I came down the first dimension. I better pull that out because I can't remember. The 5 3/8, and I came down here and I cut it 5 3/8, and then I cut the 4 inches going this direction. So I was able to get 3 card tops going this way. Unfortunately, this is the base of the card, or the bottom layer, the largest layer, and we didn't want this little dream of big things on the card, and so I couldn't get 2 full rows. Normally I would have been able to if it hadn't been for this. So what I did then is I then came down and I cut the 5 3/8 going the opposite direction, and so then I got 2. So I was able to get 5 card, the largest pieces here, and then I came down here and cut off a 2-inch strip to do the flag that I'm doing, and then and that's what we wanted this side of the paper for. So I cut off the 2-inch strip, and then I cut it at 4 3/8. So I mean 4 1/2. So out of 1 sheet of paper, I was able to get 5 card tops and then 2 of the strips that I needed. And then I have all sorts of scraps left over, and because these are the colors that she chose to do, she wants me to do her decorating and stuff in, I'm saving them because there's other projects that, if they haven't already been posted, will be posted soon using these same colors, and so I wanted to incorporate some of the paper and save some of the paper. I used, from Stampendous, I used this Happy Messages, and I used this great big thank you. And then I used, for the inside of the card, because it's a dark brown base, we needed to have a place that she could write her message to the recipient in. And so she chose this page 44 from Elegant Edges. She chose the oblong heart insert, and I cut those, and I don't know the size exactly, but I made it so that I could get 9 of them on a page. I think it ended up being like a 3.5 inch cut, I'm not sure, but I got 9 of them on a page, and it will go on the inside. Now this paper is also from Basil. I don't know the name of it because it was just open stock paper and the name's not on the paper itself, but it's also a Basil paper. So this was the cream. Then she had a scripture verse that she wanted me to use, and instead of a stamped image or something. And so I went online and I looked, and I found this place called Rosebud Crafts or something like that, and I'll put a link below. And the scripture verse that she wanted was, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Now this isn't cut exactly to the dimensions of the Operation Right Home because of the way it's just laid out. It's close, but it's not exactly. Now on some of the cards I forgot to ink around the edges, but I'm not putting a layer between this and the printed paper below, and so I wanted to go through and ink the edges of this just to add a little bit of an extra finished touch. So this is the part that normally on the card would have been 2 3/4 by 1 3/4 or something like that, and it's a little bit larger. So let's put our card base together. Now here's a tip when you are doing as many of these as I have done. This is the last one I have to make. Do it in steps. I went through and I cut all of my brown paper, and I went through and I cut all of my card bases. The other tip is, I hope you're a better counter than I am. Count carefully, because I ended up with far more of these. I had miscounted them, and I ended up with a whole bunch more of these than what I had of the card bases. So I went back. What I had planned to do was just, this was a Basil 12 by 12 inch paper that I printed this from, so I cut it to 8.5 by 11 so I could run it through my printer, and by doing that I could get 9 of these on a page, and then I was going to use the edges to cut my insides, but I'm sure a few of these, but I've decided to hold off because this is so much for graduation. Normally this isn't a scripture that I would put on thank you notes, so if we have extra thank you notes I will replace this with another piece, so we're just kind of hanging off. So I cut 3 sheets of these, so I had 27 of the scripture verses. So we see here that our paper is going to fold on the side. The ink that I'm using is this coffee ink from Ranger, and I've already stamped my image, and it's down on the bottom. So now this card is designed for the base to be all on one side instead of centering it. It goes all the way against the folded edge in my case because of the way I chose to orient the card. It's going all the way up against the folded edge So only 3 sides of the brown are showing here. Now, because this stripe is so busy, I chose to layer, this is going to be my flag piece, and I chose to layer it to break it up because I just thought it was too busy to be on top of there. And I'm going to tell you what I did, and then I'm going to tell you a better way to do it. When I was cutting my flags, now typically what I would do is I would just eyeball it, cut a strip, cut down the middle, and then bring my points. However, for this one, because I was making so many, I did it a little bit differently. I went 1 inch in and to make my line on my opposite side, and then I lined this up because this is 2 inches wide. I lined it up here on the 1 inch mark, and then I just came to my pencil mark. And then I did the same thing on the brown piece, but my points ended up being all catawampus from here to here. So I'm going to do this one a little bit different. So I then go from tip to point, and then from this tip or point to point there. And then I have a nice banner there. Now what I'm going to do, instead of pre-cutting all of my banners like I had on when I did the other 29 of these, or well, I discovered this with about when I had to add cards. So, you know, there's probably like 26 of them that I did that way. But this time what I'm going to do, again, I want to line it up on this edge because it's going to be going kind of opposite of the way the card base itself is. And I would have saved myself a lot of time and heartache if I had just done it this way and just, again, done the eyeball. And then it would have just cut it. I would have saved myself the time, but also I would have had a more consistent banner on them. Some of mine didn't have a very consistent banner. They still turned out cute, but I would have just saved myself a little bit of extra heartache in layering. Now, I had to go a little bit higher on this than what the original sketch is placed, and the reason why is because my thank you is so big. I either had ones that were too small, or this one was a little bit bigger than I would have preferred, but I decided I would go ahead and go with the larger, so it's up just a tad bit higher, and this just sets right there. So very simple card. Now to finish off the inside, when I open it up, this is where I'm going to use this piece, and it's quite a bit smaller because I needed to I needed to save as much paper as I could because I'm making so many. And then my Cricut, the mat I was using for one of the sets when I was cutting it wasn't sticky enough, and I had turned my back, and when I turned around, it had messed up about 1/3 of a sheet of paper. So then I almost didn't have enough. So that gives her plenty of room to leave her message to her family member or friend. And so there we have the card, and here is the stack of them. One graduation project is completely done and ready for my daughter to start sending off her thank you notes. The variations, this is one that doesn't have the scripture on it, and again, you can see the mess here from my point. They still turned out cute, but not as, shall I say, I just decided I couldn't be as obsessive about these as I often am because I had to make so many. But this is one of the ones that I'll set aside, and if she doesn't need it, we'll put something else on it for the future. If she does need it, I'll just print some more of these off some other paper because I'm out of that now. This again is pretty similar to the one I just did. On the bottom here we have those that I forgot to ink, and there's not a huge difference. It's just that little extra touch that gives that little special touch. So there we have this stack of thank you notes all done. Now I told you I would give you a sneak peek of the paper I'm going to use, and this is, I think, I have to get it out here. This is the second I think, set of this paper that I've gone through, because I have had them for a long time, and I caught them on clearance, and it's got some really pretty paper in here. So let's see what kind of thank you notes I can come up with these to send to Operation Right Home. So thanks so much for stopping by today. Again, be sure and check out the blog at www.djsundry.blogspot.com. Just a few hours after this one goes up, the very next post to the one that this one is on will be the post that shows the new ones that I made with this. So thanks so much for stopping by, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.